Have you ever wondered why a grotesque monster in a horror movie is sometimes less terrifying than a porcelain doll with wide, soulless eyes? There is a certain dissonance, a red alert screaming in your brain. Run! Something is wrong here. Why has nature programmed us to fear things that are almost human more than things that aren't human at all? Welcome back, travelers. Today, we aren't just taking a stroll around that psychological pit known as the Uncanny Valley. We are going deeper than that to see what is truly lurking beneath that human-like shell. Part 1. The Mapmaker of Fear, Masahiro Mori. The story begins in the 1970s in the land of the rising sun. There was a man named Masahiro Mori, a robotics expert. While spending his youth building machines designed to mimic humanity, Mori discovered a chilling paradox. He noticed that as robots became more human-like, our affinity for them increased. But that affinity only climbed to a certain peak. When a robot reached a stage of near perfection, possessing skin, eyes, a smile, yet still lacking that spark of life, human emotion suddenly plummets into an abyss of revulsion and horror. Mori called this deadly gap the Uncanny Valley. It is the dwelling place of the living dead, of cursed dolls, and of smiles that never quite reach the eyes. Part 2. The Ghost from the Past, Sigmund Freud. But Mori wasn't the first to peer into this darkness. Turn back the wheels of time to 1919 and you find the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, writing a defining work titled Das Unheimliche, The Uncanny. Freud didn't look at machines, he looked at memories. To Freud, the uncanny is the return of the familiar that has been repressed. Do you remember when you were a child, believing your teddy bear had a soul, that objects could move on their own in the dark? As we grow, reason buries those beliefs deep within the subconscious. But when you see a machine moving exactly like a human, that safe boundary between animate and inanimate is blurred. Those primal childhood fears are awakened. You aren't afraid of the robot. You're afraid of the sensation. Is that lifeless thing actually alive? Part 3. The Collision with the Real, Jacques Lacan. If Freud didn't give you chills, let's turn to Jacques Lacan, the French psychoanalyst with an even darker theory. Lacan divided our perception into 3 orders: the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real. What is the real? It is that which is raw, brutal, and defies language. Imagine a car crash happening right before your eyes. In that split second, all words are meaningless. There is only shock and horror. That is when the real tears through the fabric of reality. According to Lacan, the uncanny feeling arises when we see an entity that looks human but isn't. It is a crack, a glimpse into the real, where the boundary between life and death collapses entirely. Part 4. The Call of the Survival Instinct. But leaving philosophy aside, let's talk biology. Why has millions of years of evolution taught us to fear those slack, empty faces? There are many theories, each revealing a hidden corner of our survival instinct. First, there is mate selection theory. Some argue that pale skin and glassy eyes are signs of bad genes, of poor reproductive health. However, let's be honest. Are you truly terrified of a mannequin just because you don't want to procreate with it? Perhaps this theory lacks weight. More convincing is the disease avoidance theory. Jerky movements, stiff faces, waxy skin. These are the signs of death, of contagious disease. Your lizard brain is screaming, "Stay away, it carries the plague." Or even more terrifying, the Camouflaged Predator avoidance theory. Try to imagine, in the distant past, was there a predator that knew how to camouflage itself as a human to hunt? A wolf in sheep's clothing? Science hasn't proven this, but why is the fear of the imposter so deeply ingrained in the human subconscious? Then there is category ambiguity. The human brain is obsessed with clarity. Living or dead, human or object. When a robot stands between these two extremes, our brain hangs. Imagine coming home and your pet dog suddenly speaks to you fluently in human language. Would you be amused? No. You would be terrified, because it shatters the classification rules of this world. Finally, there is the violation of social norms. A stare held for more than 5 seconds without blinking, a smile that remains frozen too long. These are signals of deception, of a potential threat trying to mimic the behavior of our kind. The ending, a lesson from loss. Ladies and gentlemen, we fear the Uncanny Valley because it represents perfect artificiality. Those dolls, those machines, they are immortal. They never age, they never get sick, and their smiles never fade. But that very immortality is what betrays their lack of a soul. Recently, I had to say a final goodbye to a kindred spirit, a companion who had been by my side for nearly 2 decades. Watching his breath fade, watching life wither away due to illness. It was a gut-wrenching experience, but in that pain, I realized a core difference. Why does the death of a living creature break our hearts, while the existence of a humanoid robot makes our skin crawl? Because called, true life always comes with death. Life is fragile. It is warmth. It is a beating heart. And it is the pain of separation. The real that we cherish is that very finiteness. The things in the Uncanny Valley are terrifying because they attempt to copy the shell of life while denying its price, death. So, the next time you feel a shiver down your spine from a soulless stare, silently thank that fear, because it reminds you that you are still alive, still feeling, and still connected to what is most real in this world, no matter how painful that truth may be. Thank you for listening to these wandering thoughts. Cherish the beating hearts around you. I am your guide. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the other side of fear.